Thank you, Stephen. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge the Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Robert Hutchings. I'll be chairing the hearing today. I'm joined on the panel by Robert Phillick, Gisela Rempel, and representing the Assessment and Taxation Department, City of Winnipeg, is Mr. Kem Wong, and our hearing secretary today is Stephen Lunn. I believe we have nobody on the Zoom participants in the waiting room. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that we mail to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following their swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questioning. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the Board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 4, 6, and 7 on our docket today. Mr. Lunn, please affirm the assessor and the applicant's testimony.
Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
I'm Wong.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Ms. Applicant, please state your full name.
Farah Cates.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ms. Cates. Mr. Wong.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
First item on the docket today is item number 4, file number 22-1448. Address is 165 Maryland Street, and we're dealing with the 2023 Realty Assessment Appeal. And just to confirm by both parties, there are no preliminary issues on any of the properties on the docket today.
I don't believe so.
Ms. Cates?
No.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wong, 165 Maryland Street. When you are ready, please.
Okay. The subject property is 165 Maryland Street. The roll number is 120-903-92500. File number is 22-1448. It's owned by Westminster Housing Society, Inc. This is affordable housing. We classify it as a commercial row house that's 2 stories high. It was built in 1994 and it has 12 suites with 9 outdoor parking stalls. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. It is just close to in the Wolsey area. On page 4 is our income valuation summary. We used we use average rents of $1,106 for each of the 4-bedroom rents to get a potential income of $159,000. We used a 3.2% vacancy to get an effective gross income of 154,000, and we used a 58% expense ratio to get a net operating income of 63,000. Capped at 5%, we have an estimated market value of 1,276,000. Since this is affordable housing property, their income is not very probably not a very good indication of market rents, and their expenses, which for these affordable houses, they tend to include all the utilities, whereas market apartments typically don't include all utilities. Some do, but a lot of them don't. So we're going to be looking to the market for rent and expense, rents and expenses for valuation of the subject property. So on page 5 are some rent comparables showing that the rents that have been applied are in line with what's in the market. And on page 6 are, at the top of page 6 are the CMHC market rents, and the potential rent using CMHC rents is 201,000, whereas the model has applied a rate potential rent of 159,000. So the rents that have been applied are a little bit below what the market might be, and so it is reflective of this property being an affordable housing property. On the middle chart on page 6 are some expense comparables that range from 49 to 56%. This supports the model expenses at 58.66%. On page 7 is information on how we derived our cap rates. The majority of the cap rates falling between 4.8 and 5.6%, but of course with some being lower than 4.8% and some being higher than 5.6%. On page 8 are some cap rate sales that range from 3.6% to 5.74%. On page 10 to 14 are the income and expenses submitted by the owner. And on page 15 are market rents from CMHC, which was discussed a little bit earlier. On page 6. So when you look to the market for valuing this property, the model rents, expenses, and cap rate are supported by the market. So I ask that you maintain the assessed value at 1,276,000.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Does the applicant have any questions of the evidence presented by the assessor?
Yes, thank you. So if we turn to your income value summary on page 4, the cap rate applied to this property is 5%. And just to clarify, that is model derived?
Yes.
Okay. And then you mentioned about the utilities typically not being included in market apartments. But when I look at your rent comps on page 5, your comp 4 does have utilities included in the rent. Is that correct?
Yes, I did say that some properties do include utilities, but on average, the average apartment building typically only includes part of the utilities.
Okay. If we turn to page 7 of your cap rate table, so you show the 20th and 80th percentile. Do you know what the entire range is of the cap rates?
I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it is in the high 3s to maybe 7%.
Okay, and would it be fair to say that as the cap rates would move closer to that higher end for lower investment grade properties?
Maybe in the past I could you might say that, but sometimes the lower grade properties offer more potential for renovations and increasing the potential income of the property. And those properties, they seem to be fairly attractive to the buyers, as far as I can tell, in terms of the sales. So yes, in the past maybe, but in the current environment, it could be seen as an opportunity to rehabilitate the building, and sometimes they pay more for that opportunity.
Okay. So you've also included the broker information in this chart. So we see that their low end of the range for low-rise properties would be 5%, and that's for investment grade. But the city is applying lower rates, with the 20th percentile being 4.8. Can you provide information on the sales being used that are achieving such low cap rates?
Just as an example would be some of the sales on page 8.
But you don't have, to clarify, you wouldn't have all of the sales information that was used as inputs that would speak to how many sales were included and in what area, how many were row houses, etc.
No.
Okay. So then looking at this property specifically, this property is a row house. Are you aware if the model applies a premium to the cap rate for row houses based on the increased risk associated?
I'm not sure about the increased risk, but I don't actually, I don't know if there's any say increase in cap rate based off of it being a row house.
Okay. Are you aware that in prior cycles the city applied a minimum 6% cap rate to row houses?
Ms. Cates, the assessor has not presented evidence of that. So can we just stick to what
I'll move on.
Yeah, thank you.
So the property also operates as social housing. Are you aware if the model applies a premium to the cap rate for social housing given increased risk?
I don't believe so, but as I've shown in the market rent comparables, it does seem like the model has applied a lower rent, model rent, and so I do believe that the affordability aspect of it has been considered.
Okay. So if we turn to your cap rate evidence on page 8, it says that the purpose for providing these is to illustrate the accuracy of the model, but only 2 of the 6 cap rates provided fall within the 20th to 80th percentile. Would you agree with that?
Yes, and with 2390 McPhillips just falling just outside the 4.8.
Okay, and have you also provided the workups as part of your direct evidence?
No.
Okay, thank you. That concludes my questions.
Thank you. Gisela, any questions of the assessor's evidence presented?
I do have a question. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And it relates to the expense comparables. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the page. It's on page 6. Yes, thank you, Robert. And I'm wondering, in terms of these comparables, all of these buildings that you have listed here are older than the subject building, and the highest expenditure ratio is 56.70%, but you have used the model expense of 58.66%. Is that something that you're obligated to do, or do you have an opportunity to look at the expenses in other ways?
As far as I can tell, like when you look at affordable housing expenses, like when we're trying to get a estimate of market value, using affordable rents or expenses, that like affordable housing, they don't operate as a market apartment. So I think using their income or expenses would not be accurate in estimating the market value. So when looking at this property, we would use market rents and market expenses, which is essentially what the model is, and those expense comparables are there to support the expense rate that the model is applied for this for the subject property.
Okay, thank you.
Robert, any questions of the assessor?
No, I don't, sir. May I just ask one question?
Of course.
Can the gentleman just speak a little louder or turn it up just a little for me?
Okay.
Yeah. I'll yes. Is that better?
Yes, that is. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Wong. Mr. Wong, page 6 of the expense comparables analysis. That chart. Isabel Street is built in 2014. Income 122. For 724. Where would that be located on Isabel? Would you know what the address or where it's located anyway?
Yeah, it's located near Notre Dame and Isabel.
Notre Dame and Isabel. Okay. And is it a row house or is it an apartment? If you can answer.
I believe it is a row house. It is definitely not like an apartment style. I think it has
Okay.
like a front porch area.
Okay. Okay. So it's between, is it between Notre Dame and Cumberland? Like, is it around there? Or Cumberland and I guess Sargent?
No, it would be north of Notre Dame and Isabel.
North of Notre Dame. Okay. Okay.
Just yeah, within a block or two.
Okay. Perfect. So between Notre Dame and William, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That is my only questions. Thank you, Mr. Wong. For the applicant, bear with us 1 second while we pull up your brief, please. Okay, Miss Cates, when you're ready, please, 165 Maryland Street.
Thank you. So if you turn to page 2, you'll see a summary of some of the facts of the property, as well as our requested assessment of $1,043,000. If you turn to page 4, we have our property description. So the subject property is located on the east side of Maryland Street, between Sarah Avenue and Westminster Avenue in the West Broadway area of Winnipeg. The improvements consist of two-story commercial row house buildings that were built in 1994, and they are presently being used as multiple family residential buildings. The total gross floor area is approximately 13,370 square feet, and the subject property is noted as having 3 3-bedroom suites and 9 4-bedroom suites for a total of 12 suites, and there are 9 outdoor parking stalls noted. The site size is also 20,850 square feet and zoned RMFM. So we've provided an aerial view of the subject property so you can see the 2 buildings and the small parking area. On page 5, we've provided a Google map view to get a better sense of the neighborhood and what's surrounding it. So if you turn to page 8, that will be the overview of our income approach. So for the income used, we are accepting the modeled effective gross income of $154,303, given that it is social housing, and we need to look to the market for appropriate rents. And the expense ratio applied to the property is 59.4% based on the actual expenses of the subject property. If you turn to page 9, we have discussion on our cap rate applied. So we are disputing the cap rate of 5%. I would like to make a correction. I know it says we're applying 5.75%, but that should be corrected to 6% as it shows in the table. So I apologize for that. So for our cap rates, we look to base cap rates first based on effective year built. And then we look to make any site-specific adjustments if necessary based on the property at hand. So for this property, it is an effective year built of 1994. So we have a base cap rate assigned of 5.5%. And in the second table, we describe all of the factors that we've considered in our analysis. So 2 adjustments were made to the cap rate in this case. So the first being for building type and construction, given that it is a row house property. Row houses have more roof area. They're not as an efficient building design as building upwards. There's more systems to maintain, individual entrances and exits. So row houses would carry more risk. So we've made an adjustment here. And then we've also made an adjustment given that it's social housing. So as further background for our adjustment for social housing, we've included some documents in our appendix. So if I could direct everyone to go to page 14 of this document, and I'll just review that briefly. So page 14, we have the overview of cap rates for affordable housing. So the first bolded paragraph is taken from the Municipal Board Order AO2330, which states that the presence of 4 characteristics would warrant a higher yield to the cap rate. So these 4 characteristics being low cost or low quality construction, advanced age, declining or blighted neighborhood, and low income tenancy. And if you look down to the third bolded paragraph, this is from a text written by Richard Fulton for the Appraisal Institute, which just discusses that cap rates for income restricted properties should be formed by first looking at rates of unrestricted properties and applying upwards for a premium based on the associated risks. So page 15, 16, 17, and 18 are just that attached municipal board order with the highlighted sections for the board's reference, should they wish to look to that. And then if you turn to page 19, we've included another board order, AO3073, which essentially on page 20, the highlighted section just talks about with social housing, it's not enough to just adjust the market rents to on the lower side and adjust the vacancy, that a cap rate adjustment would also be required. So that board order kind of goes to page 20, 21, and 22, just in case you want the background there. So if we could go back to page 9, just to go back to the cap rate page. So those 2 factors inform our adjustment to the cap rate to 6% from our base of 5.5%. Now, if you turn to page 11, we have our income valuation breakdown. So
Which page?
11.
Sorry, I missed that. Thank you.
So based on how the owner reported the income values, we've just looked to the EGI for a market EGI instead of having the breakdown of like rents, vacancy to the EGI. So just to clarify that point. So like I stated before, we are using the modeled rate of $154,303. Our expense ratio is fairly close to the cities as well at 59.4%. Generally, we like to stabilize the expenses from 3 years of data, but in this case, we only had the 2 years of data for 2019 and 2020. So that is what we have used. In terms of the repair and maintenance, that is based on a stabilized value. So we provide a repair and maintenance breakdown in our brief as well. So if I can show that to you, that would be on page 31. So if, let me know when it would be good to proceed in page 31.
I am good.
You're good? Okay. So on page 31, we have our R&M breakdown. We have listed for the years of 2016 to 2020 to do a 5-year average. But in this case, we just had the data for 2019 and 2020. So we've done a 2-year average based on the data that we have. So you'll see toward the bottom of the repair and maintenance chart, we show the R&M total, the R&M less capital expenditures such as roof, hot water tank, and then also less waste and snow, because so snow separately, and that gives us the R&M per suite. In terms of our stabilizations, when you look to the right hand side of the sheet, you'll see some of the categories have capped values, and those are based on our interviews with property managers on what appropriate values for those flooring replacement, appliance replacement, painting, and counters would be. And then we also go in and exclude any values if they appear to be outliers. So based on this breakdown, we have a value of $768 of repair and maintenance per suite. And you'll see below that chart, we also have broken out a chart for the reserve expenditures, and that's also reflected on our valuation page on page 11. So if we could just go back to page 11 of the valuation, and I'd like to just get into the cap rate in a bit more detail. So on a separate document, we have our Altus apartment cap rate study. Just due to the size of it, we had to break it out into 2 documents. But if you could open up the one that says Altus apartment cap rate main to appendix A to C, I'll just briefly go through the cap rate study. If you could let me know when it's good to proceed on the cap rate study.
Sorry, Ms. Cates, I'm in the appendix. Where would I go from there?
Oh, sorry, just because there was 2 documents. So just the one that says Altus apartment cap rate main to appendix A to C, just on page 1, and I'll just briefly go through.
Page 1?
Yeah, just starting on page 1 of the cap rate study, and then I'll just briefly go through that.
This one?
I don't know. Yeah.
Apartment cap rate study.
Study main to appendix A to C. Do you have that?
I have appendix D.
No.
Okay, thank you, Stephen.
We're always trying.
Oh, there, here we go. So look under 07-22, under 401 boroughs there.
Here? Yeah. It's that one right there. Right here? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, we got it.
I get to proceed on cap rate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So if you turn to page 2, we've just done a brief summary on these city range of cap rates. So we have a range established of 3.85 to 7.4, with most being between the 4.9 to 5.65 range. If you look toward the middle of page 2, we have a chart summarizing the broker cap rates. So what we're seeing is no less than 5% for investment grade low rise properties. And the other thing that we're seeing from here is either 0 compression or very low compression of 25 basis points from last cycle. Toward the bottom of page 2, we have some information on interest rates, essentially showing that cap rates are only one component of the overall rates, and that the cap rates don't necessarily move at a 1-to-1 ratio with the treasury yields. And then on page 3, we just have some graphs further speaking to the interest rate. Page 4 is the start of our factors affecting cap rates. So these are the factors that we've considered for our site-specific analysis for the property, and not all factors would be necessary for all properties. In terms of for the properties on our docket today, important factors would be building type and construction, like what we mentioned with the row house properties being of wood frame construction, having a lot of roof area, a lot of different elements to maintain versus standard apartments where it would be more consolidated. Additionally, building amenities, we're seeing a trend that predated COVID of working from home. And this has caused people to want more amenities in their properties, like gyms, pet-friendly spaces, more outdoor spaces, etc. In terms of condition will also impact the risk. Buildings that have a lot of capital expenditures or lower quality finishes would increase risk for the property. And then some other factors that could be read through as well, but those are kind of the highlights for today. Toward the bottom of page 5, we have our comparison to prior cap rates for reference. Page 6 is our cap rate sales that we're looking to. So the first few sales in there are our sales from this cycle. And we've also included some prior cap rates that are relevant to show the evolution of our position, as well as further provide support for our cap rate position. A quick note on McPhillips: since the submission of the cap rates of this evidence, we have revised our cap rate on McPhillips to 5.59, but I'll speak to that a bit more in the form of rebuttal later. On page 7, we have a summary of our sale price per suite for the different age categories broken out by averages and medians. And then on the middle to bottom of page 7, we have our base cap rates and our factors that are shown in our briefs. So that is essentially the report section of the cap rate, in terms of just briefly touching on some of the pages in the appendix. If you go to page 8, that's the start of our Appendix A. It's just a sampling of some city cap rates, just to essentially show that there's differences among the different age categories. So there are some factors that are being adjusted that we're just not sure what those are. Appendix B would start on page 14. So that's just the backup for the broker charts that we included. So if you wanted to see the entire market reports, that would start on page 14. And then page 20 would be the start of Appendix C. So just some backup documentation for those different factors that we discussed. Just a couple pages to note in there. Page 22 speaks to some of those pre-existing trends. And then page 37 and 38 speaks to the new supply of apartments and what's coming on stream and in which sections of the city. So that would be page 37 talks about new inventory, and page 38 divides by region. And then in terms of the backup for our cap rate sales, if you were interested in viewing that, that would be in our separate document called Altus Cap Rates Appendix D. I'm not going to go through that right now, just for expediency, but if you wish to view those, that would be in that separate document called, again, Altus Cap Rates Appendix D. And then also in that separate document, starting on page 95, would be the backup information for the sale prices per suite, if you wanted to view what sales were being inputted into that. So going back to the brief, so that forms our 6% cap rate here, giving us our value of $1,043,000. which works out to a value of $86,900 a suite. That would conclude the main main presentation. And then just as a side note, in our appendix of our main report, we've also included the financial statements that we used and the city valuation page if you were interested in viewing that. So that would conclude my presentation for this property. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cates. Can we assume that the evidence presented for the cap rate study and everything will be carried forward in the remaining properties on the docket?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And I heard you mention rebuttal. Do we have rebuttal involved on this first property?
I submitted some rebuttal just pertaining to the city cap rate, so we could just go through it once and kind of be done with it.
Okay, Mr. Wong, do you have rebuttal on anything?
Yes, I have rebuttal as well.
Okay, so it would be appreciated if rebuttal is there that that the rebuttal be brought up while we've got the evidence presented by the party. So now Ms. Cates we're going back into Mr. Wong's presentation. Pardon me? Sorry, Mr. Wong.
No, I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. Normally, I would deal with rebuttal right after the evidence is presented by the assessor, for instance, Ms. Cates. But so I think, to be fair, we should deal with your rebuttal on Mr. Wong's evidence. But bear with us while we get back into his brief. Okay, Ms. Cates?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, and then we would find your rebuttal in your evidence, Ms. Cates, on could you direct us to that, please?
It should just be called Altus rebuttal to city 2023 apartment cap rates. I don't know if it would.
I'm sharing it with them.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't see it either. So okay, we shall wait.
It won't be shared.
Oh, here we go.
And I just have to send it to the assessor very quickly.
We'll let you know when we've got it, Ms. Cates. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And I am showing Stephen Altus rebuttal to city 2023 apartment cap rates.
Yes.
PDF.
That
Okay.
is it. Yep.
Yeah. Does everybody have that available?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Assessor, I've just sent you an email with it.
Okay.
We'll wait for Mr. Wong to get that before we proceed, please.
Is it here?
Yeah.
You said.
And again, Ms. Cates will consider this to be carried forward to the other two properties. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Wong, did you receive it?
I haven't received the Altus rebuttal yet.
Okay, we shall wait for you.
I mean, okay.
Received?
Yep.
Okay. Ms. Cates, when you're ready, please rebuttal to the assessor's cap rates when you're ready.
Okay. Thank you. So if you turn to page 2, the first comparable being discussed is 2390 McPhillips. So as we did further research on this sale, we noticed that the property was bought with below market rents. At later ads supported this idea, but our cap rate was redone with CMHC market rents and vacancy. And so we've included the breakdown of that calculation on page 3. So that, so with using those CMHC rents and vacancy consulting the October 2019 and 2020 data, we then come to a 5.59 cap rate on this property. There's also the breakdown for the repair and maintenance as well on page 4 of this document. Page 5 discusses assessor comps 700 St. Mary's and 32 Arden. So for 700 St. Mary's, the property was bought with the intention to renovate, and we have enclosed a letter in later pages in this document to support that. The purchaser was a first-time buyer, and the property was in rough shape with the previous owner having not done much for repair. And for the property at 32 Arden, a couple factors here. Firstly, the property was renovated, indicating intention when purchasing. And as well, there's some inconsistent income information we discovered with the laundry income not being properly accounted for in 2018 as it was in 2016 and 17. So we're no longer including the 32 Arden comp in our study just based on that, but it is still in the assessor's comps. So then going forward, just describing some of the pages in the later document here. So page 6, we've included the CMHC rents, and page 7 is the CMHC vacancy. So that's speaking to the sale at 2390 McPhillips. And page 8 just shows those rents for McPhillips. Page 15 is for St. Mary's. So that's the letter that was discussed. And then starting on page 16, this is an ad for Arden with some highlighted sections speaking to some renovation. So that's page 16, 17, 18. And then starting on page 19, we've included the financial statements for Arden just to show the differences in the income, speaking to the laundry income. And then finally, just on page 37 of this document, we've included a municipal board order that just kind of describes the idea that we shouldn't use properties that are purchased with the intent to renovate for cap rate studies. So that would conclude the rebuttal presentation. Thank you.
Thank you to the applicant. Mr. Wong, any comments, questions regarding the rebuttal presented by the applicant?
Yes. Just with regards to, I guess, your restabilization of 2390 McPhillips. So you have their 3 years of actual income, but you're choosing not to use that in your cap rate calculation?
Correct. Upon further research, my colleague realized that the rents were below market, so it wouldn't be accurate to use those rents. The purchaser who bought this realized the rents were below market and ended up raising the rents. But for the meantime, for this valuation, we had used CMHC rents to get market rents into the calculation.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just scrolling.
No problem. Take your time.
It's on page. I think it's. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time reading the page numbers. The letter from D7, I think it might be page 14.
Page 15 of the PDF. Yeah.
Yeah. So it says that he has.
Mr. Wong, is this regarding 32 Arden?
700 St. Mary's.
Page 15. Okay.
Yeah, like I
Okay.
said, I'm having a hard time reading the page number, so I'm not totally sure. But it's the
Yeah.
letter regarding 700 St. Mary's, D7 management.
Bear with us while we try and find it, please.
Yeah.
700 St. Mary's.
It's right here.
I guess I went too far. I'm going to go backwards here.
The letterhead says D7 Property Management.
It's to Mr. Henry DuPont.
D7. Okay, I see it. Right. Okay. I've got it. Thank you.
So it says that I guess there was intention to renovate, and I guess it also says that he has done some renovations to the common areas of the building, such as repainting and halls and replacing the carpeting. He had planned to do more, but COVID and funds have prevented him from proceeding any further. So I guess that would just be an example. I just want to point that out as an example of even if that was their intention, you just don't know what is going to happen in the future. But in the case of these sales, what we do know is how it performed beforehand and what it sold for. So, with regards to, and that sentiment is also reflected in municipal board decisions, in that they have also said that they, regardless of the intent of the purchaser, what is known at the time of the sale is the sale price and the income and expenses. So we feel it is valid.
Do you have a question?
No, I think no, I don't have a question. It was more of a statement with regards to intention to renovate.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Wong?
No.
Okay, thank you. Gisela, do you have any questions on the rebuttal presented by the applicant?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert, any questions?
No, I have none either.
Okay, thank you. My only question, Ms. Cates, is I'm looking at the dates of some of these letters. Is that when they were printed in October of 2022, or you see what I'm referring to, for instance, or November?
Are you on the same letter, or are you looking at the McPhillips?
I'm looking at, for instance, page 5 or one of 7. Okay, Lady Joyce Apartments. It says 11/15/22. What is that date?
Yeah, so that's when this was printed. So essentially the idea with including this isn't that we're using this like we're still using the CMHC rents in our calculation, but it's just kind of speaking to the idea that the rents were below market and the purchaser recognized that.
Okay. All right. That is all my questions. Mr. Wong, were you going to ask something?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right. So that concludes the rebuttal by the applicant. Mr. Wong, did I misunderstand, or do you have a rebuttal regarding the applicants? Okay. And would that be filed, or would we have to wait for?
It should be filed.
Okay, bear with us 1 second while we put that up.
Okay.
And it should be in there, and it's in Q. That one has to be.
I don't think I've received it yet.
I'm just gonna take it.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chair, it should be in the SharePoint. Let me know when you see it. It'll be capitalized A and T and then rebuttal in all caps.
Okay. So the AT&T rebuttal to 2023 Altus cap rate study,
Yep.
Yeah.
is that it? Does
That is it.
everybody have it?
I don't have it quite yet.
Okay, Ms. Cates, you let us know, please.
Okay, I've received it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wong, let me get this open, please. And again, this would be considered evidence to be brought forward to the other two properties on the docket.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. If everybody's got it, I believe everybody's got it now. Ms. Cates, you've got it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wong, when you're ready, please.
Yep. If you go to the summary page, which would be page 2. I guess it's just a summary of what we're rebutting, just with regards to, say, 2390 McPhillips. The Altus had indicated a cap rate of 5%, and if you look on page 4, that's how their 5% was calculated. It was based off of a pro forma. As far as I can tell, it seemed estimated. There's no information there. But if you go to page 3, our stabilization of the property of the 3 years prior to the sale, it indicates the net operating income to be $928,000. And if you apply that against the sale price of $19,400,000, the calculated cap rate is 4.79%. So the cap rate that we calculated is based off of 3 years of known information, and it is lower than what Altus is indicating. And if you go back to my page 2,
before you continue, Mr. Wong, Ms. Cates, just to confirm here that your actual cap rate is now higher?
For McPhillips. Yeah, we had
Yeah.
recalculated after the submission of the evidence.
Right. And that new cap rate was going to be, was it 5.7?
5.59.
Yeah, 5.6. Okay. Okay. Sorry to interrupt there. Mr. Wong, go ahead, please.
that's okay. And if you go back to my page 2, we went through the same exercise with the other properties in the Altus cap rate study, and you'll notice that, say, for 677 Maryland, the Altus calculated a cap rate of 5.66, and we calculated a cap rate of 5.5, and for 210 St. Mary's, they calculated a cap rate of 6.18, and we calculated a cap rate of 5.71. And for 100 Southview at the bottom there, we don't think that cap rate is usable. If you go to the very last page.
Could you wait a second, please?
Sure.
Thank you. This is for 100 Southview, is that right?
Yes. Yeah, so
Mr.
when everybody's there.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, is everybody there?
Yep.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Cates, are you there?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Wong, sorry.
So yeah, their indicated cap rate is 5.59, but at the top of the page, we don't think it's usable because there was no available income and expense information prior to the sale in 2016. So the pro forma data, they're estimates of how it might perform, and we don't believe it's a good indication or a good way to calculate the cap rate, because no actual data was used to conduct the cap rate analysis. So if you go back to my page 2,
Are we all there nearly?
Yes.
Okay, here we are. Okay,
so the page 2 is like it says, it's a summary of the cap rates that we're rebutting, and the supporting information and the explanations are in the pages following.
okay,
And that is that is everything in my rebuttal.
okay, thank you. And I'm just going to summarize now just to confirm for both parties and the panel. So you're saying that 2390 McPhillips should be based on actuals, not the CMHC estimates used by the applicant. 512 Balmoral, you're saying there's insufficient data to use that as a cap rate?
For which property?
512 in red?
512.
Balmoral?
Balmoral, yes. Is that one of the ones that the,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah,
and-
if you go to page 17.
yeah. Okay, right.
Yeah, it's just saying that the purchaser indicated that the purchase price was not based off of the net operating income.
Okay. I'm just trying to get a summary for our information here. And the next
Sure,
you used was 277 Langside. Again, I'm referring to page 2. Again, in your opinion, not usable data. And 100 Southview and red, unusable again due to lack of data. Is that correct in summary?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Cates, do you have any questions on the rebuttal presented by the assessor or comment, perhaps?
Thank you. So for 2390 McPhillips, are you aware the rents are below market?
I'm not aware.
And regarding Balmoral and Langside being unusable based on a checkbox on a form, have you investigated these further before discarding them?
No.
And is it possible a form could be filled out incorrectly or someone could misinterpret what it's asking?
I guess a lot of things are possible.
And lastly, with Southview being unusable based on the data, based on pro forma data is what's available to investors, correct?
It seems like it would be their estimate.
But data that's
and
available
sometimes,
to... Sorry, go ahead.
I guess that I'm actually not sure what was available to produce that pro forma, but the pro formas that I've seen, they tend to paint a slightly rosy picture of the performance of the property.
But at the end of the day, the pro forma is what's available to investors, so it would have to have some degree of accuracy. Would that be correct?
I'm not sure if you could provide support for that. It would be interesting to see.
Okay, thank you. That would conclude my questions of the rebuttal.
Thank you, Ms. Cates. Robert, any questions of the assessor regarding the rebuttal?
Not at all.
Thank you. Isela?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have no questions either. Assuming that these individual properties are being repeated for cap rate evidence on the future 2 properties that we're going to deal with this afternoon, we'll consider this evidence when we're making our decisions, okay? Is that fair?
Yes.
Ms. Cates, you happy with that?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And that concludes 165 Maryland Street. Next property on the docket is item number 6, file number 22-1593. Address is, 352 Pacific Avenue. And we're dealing with a 2023 Realty Assessment Appeal. Now, do we have any rebuttal to deal with at all, or is just a repeat of what we just dealt with on the first property?
Nothing new.
Okay, Ms. Cates?
Nothing new from me either.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, bear with us 1 second here while we pull up the brief, Mr. Wong. And we're dealing with, excuse me, 352 Pacific Avenue. Mr. Wong, when you are ready, please.
The subject property is 352 Pacific Avenue. The roll number is 130-715-48500. The file number is 22-1593. This is a commercial row house, 2 stories high. It was built in 1977 to 1978. There are 50 suites with no outdoor parking. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. On page 4 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $943 to get a potential income of $294,000 for the class code 10 and $271,000 for the class code 20. Sorry, with the class code 10, we used a 3.2% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $284,000. We use a 56% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $122,000. Capped at 5.6%, we have an estimated market value of $2,195,000 for the class code 10 and $2,026,000 or $27,000 for the class code 20. Once again, because this is affordable housing, we will be looking to the market to value the property. And on page 5 are some comparable rents, which show that the rent that the model has applied is in line with the market and maybe a little bit below market. And on page 6 is on the top chart is the CMHC market rents for row houses. If you use the CMHC market rents and apply it for to the units for this property, the potential is $611,000. Which is higher than what the model is estimated at $566,000. So I believe that the CMHC market rents support the model rents that have been applied. And at the bottom or the middle chart are some expense comparables that range from about 49 to 56%. And this supports the model expense ratio of 56%. On page 7 and 8 is information on how we derived our cap rates, along with some cap rate sales that range from 3.6 to 5.74%. And on the last few pages are the income and expenses submitted by the owner and the CMHC market rents chart on the very last page. So when we look to the market to estimate a value for the subject property, the rents, the expenses, and the cap rate are supported by the market. And I ask that you maintain the assessed value at $4,222,000.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. For the applicant, could you just bear with me 1 second before we start questioning? Because we've got a class code split here, so just trying to document everything.
Sure.
Right.
And I'm sorry, unfortunately, I didn't include this in my brief, but there are permits that were taken out to for repairs and upgrades to the townhouses. And their declared construction value is $1 million, and there's about 10 permits that have a declared construction value of about $150,000. So there is some improvement being done to this property.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Does the applicant have any questions of the assessor's evidence presented?
I do, thank you. Have you visited the subject property?
I have not.
And would you agree that the subject property is in a challenging location?
Yes.
So regarding the permit stated, just to be clear, you did not submit anything regarding the permit values in your direct evidence.
No, I'm just speaking towards it.
And then further to the permits, based on what you've read, you would agree these are just standard upgrades to keep these livable. Nothing outrageous has been done to these units, correct?
They're in the neighborhood of retrofitting existing building envelopes, windows, exterior doors, roofing, rain gear, soffits, mechanical work to include provisions of HRV, electrical work associated with the mechanical retrofit items. So it does appear that they're that's what they're doing.
Okay. And then, Mr. Chair, can I request that my questions that I asked earlier regarding cap rate just be carried forward, given that this is also row housing and social housing?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Cates.
Thank you. So that would conclude my questions.
Thank you. Gisela, any questions of the assessor's evidence?
I just have one question, and that would be related to the chart showing CMHC market rent potential row house on page 6.
Yes.
And I see that in an earlier part of this brief, you indicate there's 50 apartments, and I count less than 50 by 9 here. In your 352 Pacific Avenue in Zone 2. I think there's 9 4-bedroom apartments.
Yes, actually, you know what that is? I missed the 9 4-bedroom apartments. So that calculation would be excluding that. So the actual CMHC market potential rent would probably be noticeably higher than the 611,000 that I've calculated. So I apologize for that, for missing that.
Okay, thank you. That was my only question.
Thanks, Gisela, for pointing that out. Thank you. Robert, any questions?
Not at the present moment.
Thank you. Mr. Wong, I guess since we've got a split classification role here, class code 10 would be, can you describe the difference between a class code 10 and a 20? And I guess it's the building style, but is there any detail on how many of each class code there is? You've done 2 income streams, right?
Unfortunately, I don't have the breakdown. Unfortunately, I don't have the breakdown, but basically for the buildings on the property that are I think 5 units or more, they would be considered and for the buildings, for each individual building that's 4 units or less, that would be the class code 10 portion of the income stream.
Okay. So just to confirm, class code 10 would be 4 units or or less per building, and class code 20 would be 5 units or more per building.
Would be 5 units or more.
would be class code 20.
Yeah, yeah. And if you look on my page 3, you'll see that there are some buildings that would obviously have more than 4 units, and then there's some buildings that would have less than 4 or less than 5. Sorry.
Okay. And in the in the page 4, that income stream calculation, you are using the same average monthly rent per unit of $943.61, but it's just for classification purposes that we've got to split between a 10 and a 20 class code. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Hey.
Yeah, you'll notice that the columns are, I mean, the vacancy is the same and the expense ratio is the same and the cap rates are the same. So yeah, it's just the way that we record it. They could essentially be one income stream, and I guess it would be simpler, but this is the way that we record it.
Yeah, the problem is that, well, maybe I shouldn't state it that way. It requires an analysis of the split between the 2 building types, right? But anyway, okay, that's our problem. The board will deal with it. That's all my questions. Thank you, Mr. Wong. Ms. Cates, bear with me 1 second while we pull up your brief, please. 352.
Yeah, it might require that, but there is a, I guess, a limited amount of information, and
yeah, no, fair enough. That's okay. We will figure it out if we have to. That's fine. Thanks for the explanation there. Ms. Kate, sorry. I think we've all got your brief in front of us. Can we get 352 Pacific Avenue, please?
Okay, thank you. So if you turn to page 2, you'll see a summary of the property facts as well as our requested assessment of $3,503,000. And then toward the next few pages, I've included a variety of different pictures. There's a lot of buildings on the site. There's a total of 20 separate buildings. So I wanted to provide the perspective of all of those buildings. So if you look to page 3, these are some images from Pacific Avenue, and that goes to page 4 as well. Page 5 are the properties that front on Ellen Street. And then page 6 are the units that front on Ross Avenue. And that goes to page 8. Then starting on page 9, I've included some interior photos that I had access to. So just to get a sense of the inside of the units. And then on page 13 is where the property description starts. So the subject property is kind of one large parcel, but just due to roadways here, it's kind of been, looks like it's been divided into kind of.
What page are you on?
Sorry, I'm on page 13. Sorry. Okay. So I've just numbered the parcels on the aerial map here just because it's all one parcel, but kind of been divided by roadways. So just so it's clear that this is all one whole parcel. So the first parcel here is located on Pacific Avenue. The second one is Pacific Avenue at its intersection with Ellen Street. And then the third one is Ross Avenue at its intersection with Ellen Street. And this property is located within 2-story buildings, which are a mix of townhouse and detached units. They were built in 1977 and are presently being used as multiple family residential buildings. The total gross floor area is approximately 46,724 square feet. The subject property has 3 1-bedroom suites, 18 2-bedroom suites, 20 3-bedroom suites, and 9 4-bedroom suites for a total of 50 suites. And the land size is about 2.2 acres and zoned R2. So on page 14, I have a Google map view of the subject area. And then if you would go to page 17, I have an overview of the income approach. So the property is social housing. So we will be using the modeled rent of $943.61 per suite per month. And we will also be using a market vacancy rate of 3.2%. Both of those given that the property
Mr. Lund, can you hear me?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can, but I missed about the last 3 minutes approximately, Ms. Bates. I think you were comparing the
Okay.
or working through the income stream up to you had agreed with the assessor on potential rent, vacancy, and expenses, I believe.
Yeah, so essentially it's just a cap rate issue for this
Maybe,
property.
Ms. Kate, sorry, we'll have to stop while Mr. Lund has left the room. So perhaps we'll recess for
Okay.
a couple of minutes until the technical issues get sorted out, if you don't mind.
He's back now, Robert.
I think, are they frozen on the screen there?
Yeah,
Okay, we're just gonna shut it down for 5 minutes and see if we can get it
okay.
going again.
Are you going to tell them or? Oh, wait, I think Robert just moved. Robert, can you hear it?
Yes, I can, but there is no video. It's frozen again.
Yes, the miracle of technology.
So we are going to recess for at least 5 minutes until we iron out the technical issues. Yeah, I'll now call the hearing back to order. Ms. Cates, we'll start on page 18 regarding the analysis of your cap rate. Okay, when you're ready, please.
Okay, thank you. So we are disputing the assessor's cap rate of 5.6% here. We are using a cap rate of 6.75% based on our cap rate study, which we previously discussed. So our base cap rate here is a 1977 build. So our base cap rate is 5.50%. And we've made several adjustments to the analysis. My colleague and I had the opportunity to visit the site last week. So unfortunately, we weren't able to submit the photos and the notes from that as it was past the evidence deadline. But I'll just speak to some of the adjustments that we've made. So the first one under building type and construction, it's wood frame construction, and there are multiple buildings. It is a large site. There are 20 buildings. There's a lot of different maintenance required there, a lot of different building elements for each of those buildings to keep them running. So we have made an adjustment there. We have also made an adjustment given that this is social housing and there's no history of economic profit here. So there are elements of deferred maintenance, pending expenditures and such. And this pertains to what we previously discussed regarding the appendix of what we have for social housing for warranting a higher cap rate. So I won't go through that again, but we've made an adjustment given that it's social housing, there's no amenities, etc. The condition can be more accurately described as inferior to poor. There's a range at this property. We had the opportunity to do interior inspections of 3 of the vacant suites. So we inspected one of them that was more of a house, the house-like structure that functions as a side-by-side. The condition in there is quite poor. It's not currently habitable, and they need to do a significant amount of upgrades to bring it up to par for someone to be able to live there. We also went to see a couple of the townhouse units. So we saw one of the main floor townhouse units that's currently under some renovation. There's quite a bit of water damage in there and all the issues that come with water damage. So they are currently doing some renovation to bring that one up to par. The third unit we went to was a second floor townhouse unit. So there's no main floor to that unit. It's just that kind of a steep set of stairs up. And then the unit is just on the second floor. That one is also undergoing renovations. But I would also suggest there's some kind of issues with just having a second floor unit in terms of accessibility or having, small kids up there. So that's what I would say with the condition. In terms of the exterior, there's a lot of boarded windows, there's graffiti, there are different elements of the site. The photos that I have in the brief are from Street View, so they're not completely up to date. But that was the findings from our site visit to the property. And additionally, we've made an adjustment for location. I would suggest that the location would be a bit of a challenging location in the Centennial area. So based on those adjustments, we're comfortable at a 6.75% cap rate for this property. And what we have on the bottom here is just a summary again of the broker cap rate. So the current cap rate for the property at 5.6. That's within the range of broker cap rates for market apartments. This is not a standard market apartment, and a premium should be applied to that cap rate. So based on that cap rate, our value for the property comes out at $3,503,000, which works out to $70,060 a suite. And then in the appendix, which starts on page 22, it has the kind of pages surrounding social housing as well. We've included the city valuation page and our kind of R&M valuation pages, though not with data for those ones, but we've included them anyways. So that would conclude my presentation for 352 Pacific.
Thank you to the applicant. Mr. Wong, any questions of the applicant's evidence presented?
No questions.
Thank you. Robert, any questions of the applicant?
No, not right now, thank you.
Thank you. Gisela?
I'm just wondering, you say that the pictures that you've submitted were street view.
Yes.
Do you have any idea when those were taken at all?
It would have been within the last couple of years. I would have to go back and look at the history tab. It would have been within the last couple of years. But given that we were there more recently, I felt I should just kind of speak to that as well.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Gisela.
Sir, I do have a question.
Go ahead, Robert.
When I was looking at all these pictures, I was quite amazed that this was all one project. And when I look at the assessors, he says 2 properties, and that's where I got a little confused.
I think they've just broken it down into two
segments?
streams.
Yes.
Yeah, but they assign the same kind of parameters to both.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Anything else, Rob?
Sorry, on my
Anything
page
else, Rob?
1, it does indicate like there's 20 buildings on the property.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, couldn't hear you.
Sorry, I guess it's on my page 1, it indicates that there's 20 buildings on the property.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else, Robert?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, my question to the applicant is this is a bit of bookkeeping here, page 20 of your, I guess, your summary, and just bear with me until I get there. Your chart, your spreadsheet, Ms. Cates?
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm gonna just confirm some numbers with you
okay.
for our reference, but I'm still getting to that page. Sorry, I gotta rotate it here. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm looking at your summary, and you do agree with the assessor's NOI at 236,429?
Yes,
So what I need is you to agree to the class code 20 and class code 10 split on that net operating income. So the assessor had 113,486 at class code 20, and he had 122,943 at class code 10, and which totaled out at that 236,429. Would you accept that for our calculations for doing the split in the roll?
I will.
Okay, thank you.
I will.
Oh, thank you. And then the discrepancy, or pardon me, the difference in opinion is 5.6% as opposed to 6.75 on both of those, that split, and not our net operating income. Was that accurate?
That would be accurate, yes.
Okay, thank you. I think that that answers all our questions. I have nothing else to say. Excuse me. That would conclude 352 Pacific Avenue. Next item on the docket is 401 Burroughs Avenue, file number 22-1906. 401 Burroughs Avenue, and we're dealing with a 2023 realty appeal. And Mr. Wong, I believe, I'll get you to introduce the property, then we'll discuss it with Ms. Cates, okay?
Sure. The subject property is 401 Burroughs Avenue. The roll number is 140-303-44000. The file number is 22-1906. This is a residential apartment block that's 2 stories high. It was built in 1913, but we have an effective year built of 1951. There's 5 suites with 1 outdoor parking stall. On page 3 is a picture of the subject property with its location. On page 4 is our income valuation summary. We use average rents of $616 to get a potential income of $36,000. We used a 25% vacancy to get an effective gross income of $27,000. And we used a 57% expense ratio to get a net operating income of $11,000. Capped at 6.55%, we have an estimated market value of $182,000. On page 5 are rent comparables, showing that the rents we've used are in line with what's in the market. And on page 6 are some CMHC rents that might indicate that the market rents are higher than what the model is applied. CMHC rents, the rent potential is $63,000, and the model is applied rent of $36,000. On the bottom of page, or the middle of page 6, are some expense comparables that range from 49 to 56%. This is market evidence that supports the model's 57% expense ratio. On page 7 and 8 is information on how we derived our cap rates, with some cap rate sales that range from 3.6 to 5.74%. And on page 10 to 12 is the income statement provided by the owner. The last page is the CMHC rent chart. Those are the rents that I use to calculate the CMHC potential rent on my page 6. And going back to my page 4, there's an indicated vacancy of 25%. I believe that is in place to reflect that a couple of the units are not in use right now. So we've reflected that by using 25% vacancy in the income valuation. So when we look at the market for rent and expense and cap rate support, the model rent cap rate, rent expenses and cap rate are supported by the market, and I actually maintain the assessed value at $182,000.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. Does the applicant have any questions of the assessor?
I have no questions.
Thank you. Excuse me. Gisela, any questions of the assessor?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And Robert, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wong, regarding the 25% vacancy, is that a model driven, or did somebody override that, or is that a maximum vacancy given? Could I ask, would you know the answer?
Yeah, in this particular case, it was the 25% vacancy was applied to reflect the 2 units that are not usable right now.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That is my only question. Ms. Cates, for the record, please, can you present a quick summary of your evidence presented and any comments on the valuation?
At this time, we would request a confirmation of the assessment per section 54(1) of the Municipal Act due to a change in ownership recently.
Okay. Okay, noted, but for the record, I need you, can you just give a quick summary of your presentation in regards to maybe perhaps what you were submitting in the way of an income and expense adjustment or anything like that?
Okay, yeah, I can go to my valuation. I'll just
Perfect.
open it up.
Thank
Just
you.
one moment. Okay, so the valuation of the property that we did would be on page 11 of the brief that I submitted. Is everyone, am I okay to proceed? Is everyone?
I'm there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, oh, yeah, we'll wait for Robert to get that spun around there.
Right there. Right here? Oh, thank you.
Which one is it, Stephen? Getting a
I'd be
tilt
looking
in my
like
neck.
this.
Very good. Open way. Microsoft Edge. Enter rotate button. I gotta go to H and then rotate it. Oh, secret.
Go to page 11.
There
Okay,
it is.
there. Go to the little circle here. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So with this property, it is social housing. So we have used the modeled rent of $36,999. The vacancy is quite high. The property has a chronic vacancy issue. So we have capped the vacancy at 25% as assessed. This gives us an effective gross income of $27,785. In terms of the expenses, we stabilize the expenses based on the actual expenses of the subject property. So the actual expenses as a ratio are quite high. So what we've done for this property is we have capped the expenses at 65%, based on what would be appropriate given the subject's age and other characteristics. So we've capped those expenses. We have applied a 7% cap rate given the poor condition of this property. It's so just as like a broad overview of what we've done with the cap rate. It has a 1951 effective year built. It is quite old. So we have a base cap rate of 5.75. It's wood frame, it's social housing, it's not in great condition, and there's also locational features to consider. So we've put a 7% cap rate on this property. So our indicated market value would have been $139,000 rounded. But again, we're just requesting confirmation of the assessment at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cates. Thank you. I don't believe there's any reasons for questioning, Mr. Wong. Any questions?
You're saying the ownership changed?
Yes, the ownership changed pretty recently.
So, okay. I guess maybe a question would be for the Board of Revision is like, would this be still a valid appeal?
I can clarify with my supervisor and we'd have to shut it down.
Can I make a point also? The appeal was filed based on the owner at the time. We have not been able to get in touch with the current owner, so we're not able to withdraw it. So we have to just request a confirmation. So that's just on our end of things. If something else is to be done on the board side, then that's to the board, but that's what we've had to do today.
Okay, that's all my questions.
Okay, thank you. Does Robert, any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. And Gisela, any questions?
I have none, thank you.
And I have none either. That will conclude 401 Burroughs Avenue. And we have heard all the items scheduled, and this